Good morning and good evening, everyone. Today is Jan 16th, and this is our Test Automation Brigade meeting. Just a reminder that this is a public meeting and recorded and put on YouTube. So let's go over the agenda items. I have written down some of the agenda items based on our discussions from the previous meeting and also some of the emails that we got during exchanges and Slack messages. But if there is anything else that we want to discuss, then let's bring it up after these items. Going over the status and updates, I know that we still have pending patches and we are still waiting on couple patches to be merged. I think like 3 or 4 patches are already merged. There might be still outstanding 3 more patches that needs to be merged. I think Hema from Infosys, most of those are Infosys patches. So I hope you would be taking care of merging those because there are some rebase issues.
Sure, Suchitra. We'll take care of that.
Okay, yeah, they have been reviewed, so we can just close them.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay, so let's go over the in progress items that we haven't looked at last week. Infosys, any updates from your side? Any questions, concerns?
No, Suchitra. We are working on the sanity test keyword and on this pod bring up in Jenkins. So we are focusing on that currently. So once we are done with that, we'll move to other items.
Okay. Adran, anyone from Adran, Gerald, or Thorsten Ove?
Yes, there is a test case which is about starting the containers in a different order, but we currently do not have a real good idea how to automatize this. This is the one thing, and the other thing is that we have problems with our virtual test environment, and we do not know why. That means when we run a test which passes and repeat the test, then it fails, and we do not know if it's a problem of the environment or a problem of the test case, especially the sanity test, which fails.
Okay.
I think, Suchitra, that is with respect to initially whatever we're facing, right? And that's still open. It happens for us also, same thing. So we have to bring down Volta and again bring up and then run the sanities.
Yes, but this eats a lot of time. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I agree. I think this is the issue that Andy is working on. Andy, any updates on this?
Right. So I've been examining this issue for a while, and as I've looked into it, I've been identifying a number of underlying bugs and different components and filing them in Jira and then working with people in the community to try to get those fixed. So it's still an ongoing process, but I think we're making some progress. But yeah, as people on the call have noted, it's still not completely resolved yet, and so that just running the sanity test twice in a row is unlikely to succeed. Now, there is a job in Jenkins where I'm experimenting with workarounds, short of like completely tearing down Volta and reinstalling it again. Yeah, it's this one right here. So what this test does is run the sanity test 5 times in a row with some additional cleanup steps done between each run. And as you can see from the results here, that's mostly working. So I will double check the comments in the JIRA ticket 1977 where I'm tracking this issue. I'll double check the comments to make sure that the workaround steps are clearly listed. So hopefully you can reproduce that in your environment as a temporary step to get the sanity test working and not have to completely tear down everything. But like I said, I expect that's just a temporary step. People in the community are fixing the bugs, and my hope is that pretty soon this is completely resolved. But that's a to-do item that I'll take on, just making sure it's clear how to reproduce that, the success in that job.
Okay.
So I'm just making this as a high priority because people are blocked on this. And this is already high, the bug is already high. So I just put an action item, Andy. So if you can just take a look at it and let us know about the workaround steps.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so manually looks like on the job it's running fine, but then when we run manually, is it happening all the time?
Sorry?
Yes, see, what Andy said is, I think he's tearing down something within the environment and then bringing it up, right, Andy?
That's correct. So my workaround steps right now are after the test runs and the device gets deleted, then we tear down BBSim, we tear
Yes.
down Onos, and we also reach into etcd and clear out some of the state that was left behind even after the device was deleted.
Yeah.
So I find if you do those things and then bring back up BBSim and Onos, then things usually work. And I've identified like specific bugs in those components too that I think people in those communities are looking at. But right now, the easiest thing to do is just tear it down and bring it back up. So that only takes maybe on the order of like 30 seconds, I think. It's much faster than tearing down Onos. I mean, tearing down Volta as a whole. Apologies for the barking dog too.
No worries. Yeah, thanks, Andy. So I just put an action item for you, and that will help everyone. If you could let us know. So regarding Volt 2008, which is about the way we start the containers in a specific order and run the sanity test, Geralt. Maybe can you send an email to David about this?
David, yes.
David Bainbridge. David Bainbridge. So I know that sometime back the functionality was not implemented, but just before the holidays, I remember a brief discussion with him that this could be tested right now, but I haven't really talked to him like how we can make the order of the containers change when we bring up. So probably David is the best person to check with for this story. Okay. If you are blocked on this, probably there are other stories that you would like to work on, so I can look those up and then give it to you, Geralt. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Anything else from your side, Adrian?
From my side, not.
Okay.
Okay, Thorsten here.
Hey, Torsten.
Hi. I would like to say some words to the issue of Uwe.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2194. He has it implemented on his virtual machine, but there are some problems with Gerrit because the code tester isn't in the repo. And he is in contact with Andy, and I saw Andy send a mail in the evening, and maybe the proposed way will work tomorrow. It's already finished, the code is finished, but the review process must start it now.
Okay, so is this because this looks like a bug, right? So he's working on this story, or this is the outcome of some other story that he has been working?
This is the story he works on. That's right.
Okay, so he's trying to remove the hard coding part for the ONOS port?
Yes, it's all everything is finished from coding side, but the review with Gerrit doesn't work due to the fact that the repo doesn't contain the core tester.
Okay.
Andy is informed, and Andy sent some hints, and it's only for information that it go ahead.
Okay, sure.
And I do think that Cord Tester should be included in that manifest. And so I created a separate Jira ticket for that, but I didn't want Uwe to be blocked while we work on that. So yeah, hopefully he'll be able to try the hints that I gave him and can contact me if there's any problems.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Anything else, Torsten? Torsten, do you have any story to work on?
Currently not. I sent you a mail what I'm doing now.
Okay.
In preparation of take a new story, and we will discuss later, I see.
Okay, sure. Yeah, probably I haven't looked at the email yet, so I can. Anything else from Matran's side before we move on?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, thank you. Devashish?
Yeah, so I have not checked in. I'll check in that, but since this is my first time to check in into GET, so I would like that if Andy can just view the log results for the test that we have done. So that would be better, so that I can check in that test case actually.
The BBC one, right? The BBC one. I looked at the results. If they are passing on your environment, that's fine, because you could just check in the code, and then through Gerrit patches we can anyway it triggers the sanity test again, and then we will know that it's easier to review, and we know if there are any issues.
Okay. And one more question actually for Andy, and that I had put in the mail, right? So just to make the test, Andy, let's say if I take Volta up, right, with the default ONUs, it comes up with one OLT and one ONU. So to do a 16 ONU, we have to bring down the BBSIM down, and then we have to start it with manually with the 16 ONU configuration actually. Can these specific things be done over on a test case, or it has to be manually created like started, and then we will run the test cases for 16 ONU?
You can a variable to the Vault app command to bring up a BBSIM with 16 ONUs.
I couldn't get you.
So when you install the system using Kind Volta, you can set in the extra Helm flag a parameter to specify how many ONUs you want in BBSIM. I can look what the exact parameter is and send it to you.
Okay. No. I was just wondering, like, if we are running test cases for 1:1 or 1:16. So, do we have to tear down the test setup and then rerun the test setup, or can it be done through the test cases itself only? I just wonder.
So I think you're asking, can you dynamically change the number of ONUs running in BBSIM?
Yes.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
not at the moment. You need to at
Okay,
least restart BBSIM.
Okay.
Okay, so Debashish, can you submit a patch to Gerrit so that we can review your changes?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you. If you run into some permissions issues, Hangwei can help you, and just send us an email to the test brigade alias, and we should be able to help you.
Yeah, sure.
So once this is done, probably there are more test cases on this sheet. You could take up another task, Debashish, or let me know in which area you want. I can assign it to you.
Sure. So that Excel sheet is on the G drive, right?
Yes,
I'll just have a look.
right. And there are also stories here. So even in the dashboard, you can see this story. So you can pick up from here.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. I'll just have a look, which I can take it up. I'll just mail it to you.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Debashish, from your side?
No, nothing. Thanks.
All right. So anyone else needs to talk about their stories, concerns, issues?
Hello, Ciprian here.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, very faintly. Cyprian, is that you?
Yes. Let me try to boost the. Just is this better?
But we hear a lot of noise. We can try. Just go on.
Yeah, sorry about this. I think I have a bad microphone. I'll try like this. Maybe join by phone. If not,
This is better. It's now good.
okay. So first of all, I apologize. I could not join last week. I know you've discussed about you have this item on the agenda about R64 support, basically. So I mainly want to check back with you and see if there's like if we should agree about who does what. I'm fairly new to your infrastructure. I've just scanned the CI management code and various stuff, and I've recently learned about the periodic sanity tests, the Volta sanity tests. And I started by looking at what it does actually, and I'm trying to run the same things in a AWS instance A1, so it's running on actual R64. But as you would expect, there's currently no support for R64 for Kind. And yeah, I'm going to look at this. Perhaps it's worth creating a ticket. I don't know how it's best. Maybe you should
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Cyprian. I know Zach is also working with you, and I'm not sure if there are tickets already created for this, and if so, where they are. So, Zach, any inputs on the tickets?
I think the tickets are mainly we have a few on the SIBA board, but
Okay.
the that's surprising to me. I didn't know that Kind had no ARM support. And because that's what we're mainly using for testing here, that may be problematic.
Yeah, I need to check, see if there's any other version that works, because the one that it tries to use seems like it's not available, like version 0.5.1.
Yeah, it looks like on their roadmap for their 1.0 release is supporting non-AMD64 architectures. They have a ticket that I'll link you. That is trying to test that. It looks like it's been an ongoing, and they're doing somebody worked up a hacked up version. So yeah, let's we can let's take this take these as other action items to deal with. If you look at the Kind stuff, that would be great. I'm still I'll still work on trying to get the Packer and the CI management stuff worked out so that we can do multi-arch builds.
Yeah, so I'm looking at their release page, and there seems to be some ARM64. So perhaps it's just a matter of not correctly identifying the binary. So it looks like it's trying to pull Kind Linux ARM64, but they name it ARM64. So maybe just that. But again, I don't know exactly how it's going to work. Definitely, the kind of the Volta script that does the installation needs to be updated so that it works.
So another option is to install Kubernetes on ARM in some other way, and then use the Volta script with the no K8 flag set to true to install on an existing cluster.
Well, there's the option of Minikube that I know about, but that also is even worse because they don't have any binary for ARM64. But it can be built. I managed to build it, which also raised another problem with the fact that some packages needed for the installation could not be fetched unless because of some DNS issues in AWS. Not really worth going into details, but it kind of works. Minikube kind of works. So with maybe Kind would also work, but I've only just started working with it, so I haven't made too much progress so far. I'm just wondering if we should create a ticket for this in your validation project.
Yeah, that sounds good. If you want to create a ticket and work it, go right ahead.
So it's just validation and testing that then I think this would be the right brigade. You can just create them.
Yeah, I've also pasted a link in the chat window, SIBA 877. That's the one that I've been logging, some of my progress. There should be at least one other ticket that is kind of blocked by this one. So at the moment, this is the one that's relevant. And long story short, ignore all that content. I have a Packer image for ARM64, minus some stuff that don't work, including Minikube and a few others. I don't remember exactly. Again, the purpose is to kind of, at this point, validate that this Packer image that I've created can be used, and that's why we've ended up to this call because I've learned about this Volta periodic test, and hopefully it will be enough to show whether the Packer image is good enough. So that's what I'm trying to achieve.
Okay, and just a quick question on the story that you have just posted, 877 SIBA. So this is on which version of SIBA that you have tried?
Well, it's not about SIBA per se because it's dealing with creating the Packer images.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're asking about what we tested on ARM, it's Cord 6.1, so it would be SIBA 1.0.
Okay.
But the goal is to move to at least the latest stable that you have, because I know that the charts keep changing and stuff are added, stuff are changed. Like for instance, what we had in around, I don't know, August for PwnSim has changed last time I checked, and that was included in the test that you run. I mean that I run for SIBA. I'm not entirely clear about the versioning strategy inside OpenCord, but suffice to say that we have been using SIBA 6.6, the SIBA 1.0 on Cord 6.1, and we haven't got a chance to update it in a long while. We want to update it to what you have right now in stable, and if it's good enough, and we can do that quickly to move to the next version of Volta, of OpenCord.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Cyprian. So you'll create the stories, right? Accordingly.
Yeah, I'll create one story on Vol, and I guess I'll try to assign it to me.
Okay.
So it would be about testing out Volta, kind Volta, I guess.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. So Zach and Cyprian, can we move on?
Sure. I added an item to this, but let me know when we're ready for that.
All right. Okay. Maybe we can discuss after this test enhancements. So going to the next item regarding the test case enhancements, we discussed briefly in the previous meeting about creating a sanity test keyword, like a sanity test keyword, and moving it to a different file so that we can use this across different test cases and different robot test case files. And the agreement was that Infosys is going to give a try on this, and looks like it's working from Infosys. Hema, do you want to just give a quick update?
Yeah, Sujitra. So we are planning to add the sanity test keyword in one of the library file, and from there we can call that keyword to our test suite. So we tested it; it's working fine, and we are doing final changes. So it will be ready tomorrow. We can submit it tomorrow end of the day.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Hema. So I think once that is done, then we would think of the splitting of these test suites, like we had discussed in the previous meeting. Like right now, everything is in one big file, but now let's split according to the functionalities, like the restart based, failure scenarios, error scenarios, functional, into various files, and then then we can put the common keywords into the utils library, and that way it's easier for us to manage these test cases. And also in Jenkins, and right now we also have the deletion of OLT, which is working right now, so it's easier to clean up before we start a new test case. Until now, we had not been cleaning up because of the issue with the deletion of OLT, and hence the dependency of each test case has become too huge. So that's about these two items. So we will be taking this as a highest priority right now. And once the Infosys submits the patches, then I will work with them to separate the test suites accordingly to multiple files, and then take it from there. Any questions, concerns? Okay. So the other item regarding execution of tests, execution of tests, this is the item that I had written from Torsten's email today. He had brought up the same concerns like we had observed, where the setup and teardown was not happening, and that's the reason we have a huge dependency on one test case over the other. So we need to run the sanity test case every time before we execute another scenario, and that will be possible now. We can create a setup and tear down right now because the deletion issue has been fixed, but the code is not merged yet, so we will hold off until the code is merged and properly tested on Jenkins jobs before we take that action item. And Torsten, talking about the concern that you have put, some of the test cases we still do keep the dependencies, like let's say before we do an enable disable, we make sure that the subscribers are all active and pingable, and run the disable enable, and then keep the subscribers continuing, and then we execute another scenario. So in these scenarios we will not be tearing down the OLT or the system, because we want to make sure that the subscribers are live and functioning properly before we continue on testing various scenarios. So for some test cases, we still continue to have will not have the tear down, and then there will be dependencies between test cases, but for few test cases, we will be taking it out. Any concern that you have regarding that?
This was a lot of information and it just was very fast, so I didn't understand everything. My issue was that I play some time with the existing Volta pod test suite, and I've learned that the sanity test is a precondition for every other test. But I learned too that it is not possible today to run all the test cases at once, one test case after the other, because there are some influences. And from my point of view, and my understanding is that every test case should be able to run by itself, or a single test case should be run. And there should be no influence from one test case to another. So I found some small errors in some test cases, some missing if conditions. But when I remove a test case, a special test case, I don't know the name now, then much more test cases work. And these dependencies, I think, are not okay, and we should remove all these dependencies.
So one of the things that you said, I think, is that not all of the tests right now work with BBSIM. Some of them only work on the physical hardware. And that is something that I have a patch under review to fix. I agree that all of the tests should be able to run with BBSIM, not just the sanity test. So I think we can fix that pretty easily.
Yeah, so that item, definitely we should be able to run most of them, ideally all of them on BBSIM as well, except that if there are any dependencies on BBSIM, that might not work. So you are working on that, Andy?
Yes. Yeah, I have a patch, but I think I'm going to need to redo it because there was a pretty extensive refactoring of the file that I had patched. And so, yeah, I will put Torsten as a reviewer on that patch once it's ready, so he can give me feedback.
Right, yeah. And if you remember a couple of meetings back, we talked about running all these test cases on BBSIM. And also there is a job that we created, which is this Volta system test. This has to create another, I'm not sure how many people remember, but this is the place where we wanted to add another stage where we want to run the functional test cases that whatever we are running right now on the physical pod should be able to run on BBSIM as well. So currently we have not been running any functional test suites on BBSIM, but ideally we should be running those on Jenkins as well every night.
Sounds good to me.
So once that patch is ready, then we can create a different stage. So that's for Hungway to add them, to integrate them to Jenkins. Okay. I will create the notes later. Yeah, regarding the dependencies, I think we are just leaving it as is until the deletion of OLT issue is fixed. So Torsten, I can explain you in a different email so that you understand why we are creating some dependencies between the test cases.
We can do it, yes.
Okay.
But we have when we split the test cases in different files, in multiple files, then we have to put the dependencies in one file. If a test case depends from another, both test cases must be in one file and there must be a description.
Yes, I agree. Yes, the description should be proper and the dependencies should go in one single file. Yes.
And Andy, I have made some private corrections in the file. Can I send it to you? Maybe you will do the same.
Oh, yeah, sure. That would be great if you've already made the changes.
It's not too much.
Okay.
Only
great.
Some small lines. Okay, I will send it, but maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, right. It's late there. I understand.
Okay. So shall we move on? Anything else in the test cases concerns? All right. Anything we want to talk about pods today?
I have I have submitted a patch, so I just checked the mail. Seems you have merged it, right? So you can just give a try today to start Jenkins. I think it should pass. So once it gets passed, then we can check for the test build. One small change is required in the IP address. I'll try to submit it tomorrow.
Which IP address is that, Hema?
Actually, DevNode, the one I shared is different, but Workspace, Jenkins Workspace is created in different node. So I have installed Kubernetes and Helm in that node today and tried it's working. So we need to change the deployment file, DevNode IP, we need to change there. I'll share you through mail.
Yeah, can you send it to me today so that I can test it by changing the IP?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I can send it, but the problem is we don't have ONU currently. We'll get it back on Wednesday only, so we cannot run the test job for now.
Sure, no problem. Test is okay. As long as the build succeeds for now, that's good enough.
Yeah, fine then.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So moving on, turning common robot test components. Zach?
Yeah, this is me.
Okay.
So there's been a little bit of breakage lately in the Volta system test and the core tester repos. This is all because of so Python 2 is getting deprecated, so we need to move to Python 3. And I did a bunch of work to get the Volta system tests to run with Python on Python 3, and also do a bunch of linting and other testing of the robot framework and other files so that everything's sort of more consistent in that repo. But as a result, because of some of the changes made there and some of the things that were moved around, that broke the SIBA tests that were being used in just Cord Tester for people who are working still on older SIBA components. And generally, this whole thing is pretty fragile. Because the way that we're running these tests, you have to check out Cord Tester, and then you have to check out Volta system tests next to each other, and then one refers to the other by relative paths. It's just not that great, because what we really ought to have is versioning for those dependencies, and not be using this weird check out two repos and make sure that they're in sync, and make sure that if you check everything out, they work together. So what I'm planning on doing is taking things that are primarily in Cord Tester, turning those into a library that can be just installed with pip. Like right now, we install other dependent libraries like Robot Framework requests, Robot Framework database, turning what we've written into something that'll probably be named like Robot Framework Cord or Robot Framework SIBA or Volta, and then having that have a more strict versioning scheme, and it'll let people check out just that version, and that'll have its own life cycle separate from the rest of our test cases. And this would be just for things that are mainly utilities, so things that live in the utility library folder, or the what is it? Cord API functional utils. Things like that don't change very often, and are often just like, here's the command to go run something in the ONOS command line and get output. Things like that are problematic from a Python standpoint. So I'm going to start working on this. There may be some breakage. There currently is some breakage in the Cord Tester, but I want to get to the point where it's much easier for people to depend on the different robot libraries that we write. So I'm just letting people know that that's probably primarily what I'm going to be working on in the near term. I don't think it's going to be that hard. It's just mainly taking existing things, reworking how they get included, and then changing the way that we run or we create virtual engs to install that library, rather than trying to like include ... utils or whatever. Are there any thoughts about that?
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That way it's really easy. We don't have to give all these relative paths.
Right. So the end goal is going to be that Volta system tests won't require Cord Tester to be checked out as well. And I still haven't decided whether I'm going to put this information in the Cord Tester repo, or in its own repo, or in the Volta system test repo. I think I'm going to work out. I'm going to make it work first, and then figure out where to put it. It may make sense for it because we have in other cases with other Python projects, just from a test perspective, if you want to change the library gets published, but you can also change how you install it in the virtual end so that you can test it locally more easily. So I'll go down that route and figure out a good way to do that. So just so people know, if you're going to be changing things that are in that utils folder or that are in like the OLT or ONU robot files that are just called by other test cases, those things are probably going to get wrapped up into this library. So how you change those, if you have outstanding patches or fixes to those, while I'm doing this, it might be good to let me know, because I don't want to move files that you have a fix for. So that's all I really have about that. It's just going to be a process.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Zach, will you create story for this?
I will. And I'll link it to the other, like I think it's 23-24 or something. That's the Python 2 to 3 conversion.
Mm-hmm. So did you already close the other one, the Python?
I have not, because I don't feel like it's totally dealt with until I fix this.
Okay.
Because currently things are kind of broken. So unfortunately, that's the case. Additionally, if you haven't noticed, when you run make test or make lint in Volta System Tests, you'll get a much more comprehensive set of tests and formatting checks and those sorts of things on your robot framework. So if you haven't rebased or your patch sets recently, please do so. A lot of the fixes there may affected a lot of files.
Okay, thanks, Zach. And also one more question now that we are talking about these libraries. Do you think that sometime back you were working on getting the documentation, kind of a document where it lists all the user written keywords, like a documentation type, the keyword?
Oh, yeah. If you run in Volta System Tests, if you run make gendoc, I think, GENDOC, it will generate a HTML file, a bunch of HTML files that describe this. We aren't currently publishing them, but that might be a good quick reference. And that will pull the documentation keywords out of the robot framework. So pay attention to how you're documenting in the robot files, because then they will be, that data will now be shared as documentation, or be useful as documentation for people who are just using those files.
Okay. All right, thanks, Zach. Any questions for Zach? Anything else, Zach, from your side?
Nope. Sorry, I broke things. I'll make it better.
Oh, no, that's fine. No problem. That's really good. Finally. Thank you. And let's move on. So there is one more item on the agenda which talks about supporting sanity tests for patches and branches.
That's my fault.
What is it about?
Yeah, so basically we have to create branches on the Volta ONOS repo to test the different ONOS versions. But I realized that the way the pipeline is written, we'll try to download images with the tag name the same as the branch name. And so that will not work because we don't have images on that branch on any repository. So if you look at the logs of the build number 10, and you scroll down at a certain point, it says it set the extra Helm flag It's up.
Further
Yeah,
up?
just before. No, it's there. Oh, sorry, don't. It's just before it starts installing Volta. Yeah, at the bottom of the screen there is Helm flag. Helm flag. Okay, stop there.
Mm-hmm.
It's Helm flag -- set default dot image tag equal onus dash 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the branch this patch was being tested on. Now, if I recall correctly, that was introduced when we had both master and Vault 2.1, and we had images for all of them. But I don't think we have anymore any case in which we need to test multiple Volta branches. Is that right?
Multiple Volta branches, but we are still using that for the released images, right? That wouldn't have, because right now I think this is the way we are setting the tag when we are using for the released job.
Yeah,
Okay.
looking forward with releases, it would be nice to support this, but I'm not opposed to changing this temporarily.
So I think we just need to figure out a way to separate the image version that we're testing against by the branch we're testing, because it's not given that a branch on a repository is available on all the repositories, and the images for that branch are published for all the repositories. Does it make sense?
Yeah, to split the what is used with repo and what is used for the individual image.
Yeah.
So this is what we are using for the released.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, but so it's a different thing, because that extra Helm flags.
Yeah, right.
So we should be able to not set these default images anymore and use whatever is in Kind Volta.
Yeah, just take that.
Oh, okay. I'll prepare a patch and I'll set it later today.
Okay.
Also, as a note, Kind Volta has support to deploy a released version without setting anything. I know that Andrea made a patch for that. So maybe we can revisit the way we do that at a certain point.
Andrea made a patch for that?
Yeah.
No, okay. I didn't look at that.
Yeah, it came like a week ago. I think it wasn't there for Volta 2.1, but it's there to 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not urgent, but we can go back at a certain point and see.
Okay, so anyone has concerns, questions for Tio? Okay. Good to go, Tio.
Okay, great. I'll send up a patch for review as soon as I'm done with meetings today.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tio. I think that's the last item on the agenda. Any quick things before we close out? It's 3 more minutes to the hour. Okay, sounds like no. Thanks everyone. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk again next week.
All right, thanks, Sujitra.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.